As tensions continue in Canada after the recent pro-Khalistani mob attack on Hindu devotees and the subsequent protests, a new video has emerged. This video purportedly shows a Khalistani urging Canadians to go back to Europe. While NewsX cannot independently verify the authenticity of the video, it is making its rounds on social media and becoming quite popular. The video shows a public rally with individuals holding Khalistani flags. One person, who is presumably the videographer, can be heard shouting. The man can be heard making inflammatory statements about Canada's ownership and denouncing white Canadians as invaders. Let's have a look.
भाई लाइक शेयर करी चलो प्लीज एवरीबॉडी लाइक शेयर टैप एवरीबॉडी लाइक शेयर दिस इज आवर कंट्री वी आर ओनर ऑफ कनाडा वी आर प्राउड कैनेडियन लाइक शेयर एवरीबॉडी लाइक शेयर हेलो पोर्शिया लाइक शेयर this is our country. Sorry, we are owner of this country. We are Khalistan. This is our country. You are from Europe. We are owner of this country. Go back to Europe. Go back to England. Deport our England people. You go back to Europe. You are not Canadian. We are Canadian. This is our country. You are invaders.
All right, let's talk about this with our guest. Joining us at this point in time is Terry Milewski, former correspondent, CBC, author of Blood for Blood. Dean Baxendale, columnist, has also been a part of this conversation earlier on, joins us once again on this program. Vicky Nanjappa, journalist, also with us on the show. Last but not the least, Major General Rajan Kochar, defense expert, is joining us on the program as well. Terry, I'll begin with you. Well, now it seems that this is not limited towards Hindus or any particular community. The Khalistani elements that India has been, red flagging for so long are now targeting the local Canadians, the people who in fact are responsible for creating and making Canada. What do you think of this entire situation? Hasn't it gotten way out of hand now?
Well, it's rather hilarious, isn't it? And it certainly does shine a harsh light on the complete incoherence, not to say craziness, of the Khalistani supporters in Canada. They do seem to be very, very out of touch sometimes, and this time they've really gone over the line. Here we have a gentleman basically repeating Columbus's mistake, the gigantic blunder that Christopher Columbus made in 1492 when he landed in the Americas and imagined that he had arrived in India, what the Europeans at the time thought was Asia. So he called the locals Indians, and here we are. But it was all a colossal error, which was, of course, not corrected in subsequent centuries. And now India is India, but what about the West Indies? This mistake is propagated through our culture in the centuries since. We even heard, by the way, on that video, we even heard some reference to Simon Go Back, which I think is about 100 years old now, and refers to the Simon Commission, which was looking at the Indian Constitution 100 years ago, was it? In about the 1920s, I think. The strangeness of this, though, is very striking, and it suggests that there are people in the Khalistan movement today who are completely out of touch with the realities of history, think that this gentleman seems quite serious, that he thinks that Europeans should go back to Europe, and that Canada should belong to people from what is now called India and was then Asia, and now is again. It's absolutely nuts. And if you thought that the intellectual quality of the Khalistan movement in Canada was worth your time, think again, because there is so much incoherence. Now they want to claim Shimla as their capital because what? Shimla has some great Sikh history. They don't claim Lahore, which does have a Sikh history. Obviously, the seat of the Sikh Empire back in the day, 200 years ago. I mean, forget this history. What you have is a very confused movement in the Khalistan movement. They don't seem to know quite where they are.
You're absolutely right about that. And Dean, what we are seeing on the streets of Canada is obviously getting us worried. They're brandishing weapons, they're talking and celebrating the assassination of former Indian prime ministers. They are openly showing their disregard for any kind of a diplomatic friction that exists. This has gone brazenly on for a very, very long time. How does this in fact reflect on the Canadian government of the day? This is obviously being looked at as political impotency.
Quite rightly pointed out the level of now new propaganda points by Khalistanis, separatists here in the country is absolutely off the charts. I think that we need to recognize that the government again has done very little to combat these extremist elements that have been inside the country, raising funds for operations back in India to discredit the government. We have a propaganda operation, disinformation, where people within the movement are clearly, unaware of history and their understanding, of the true history of India, the Sikh movement, and the past. So I think we're at a dangerous point where we've allowed this to manifest in our country. We have protests that are coming out, condoning and celebrating the murder of Indira Gandhi. It's absolutely absurd, and we need to, get the leaders in the Sikh community to push back on these radical elements inside the country as well.
General Kocher, how would you describe this problem? There is obviously, Dean is absolutely right. There seems to be ignorance about legacies and history, and the country, the state of Israel also perhaps suffers from the same problem, that there is lack of knowledge actually as to why they exist, where they exist, and since when they exist. But Canada cannot allow this. This is obviously behavior which is leading to problems not only for India, as you have very much seen that this is also going to become a problem for Canadians and Canada as well.
Vineet, I'm reminded of that famous idiom, the wearer knows where the shoe pinches. So today I'm seeing it happening, that when Khalistani talks about telling the Canadians to leave their country and this country belongs to us, suddenly there is a lot of activity and a lot of comments and turbulence, I can say that. And when we as a nation have been telling them time and again, we have given them evidences of people like Nijar and Dalla. Ash Dalla is the latest case.
Exactly.
He has more than 50 cases in India of these money laundering, murder, assassination, these type of activities he has been indulging in. And moment he carries out one activity in Canada, he gets arrested. So I think the Canadian authorities may like to review their legal systems and legal processes and take cognizance of a criminal who commits offenses outside Canada. So that aspect is extremely relevant. And today, there is a turmoil in Canada. I've been speaking to some of my Canadian friends, and they tell me that Trudeau's leadership has not only damaged the reputation of Canada as a nation outside the country, within the country also his policies, his actions have caused a lot of damage. I'll just give you a recent example. 55,000 Canadian post workers, the labor strike, have actually gone on a strike. It is going to paralyze to some extent the logistics function of the Canadian people. After all, Trudeau has also announced 35% reduction in the intake of immigrants this year, and it is going to increase to 45% next year. The students which come to Canada from India are more than 4 lakhs every year. They generate a great amount of revenue for the Canadian authorities. This pinch is going to be felt by them in times to come, because it is going to create a socio-economic issue in Canada. Because right now it may be only related to India, and we can talk about India Canada relations. I was just speaking to Terry of the this thing program, and we both feel that it can't get worse. It has to be better from now on, and I think if this gentleman is taken out of their system as soon as possible, we are likely to see some kind of a change in Canada, because he is he's become like a parasite within his own country. He's driving the economy to shreds. There is a healthcare issue in Canada. There is a housing a problem in Canada. The people or the immigrants of an open door policy which was kept earlier, the pace of housing has not kept in line with the people who are coming to Canada. So all these are important issues. Jobs have become an important issue, because if you don't have immigrants, do you have the workers available in Canada who can carry out your construction activities, your other activities of your logistics and all? So it is going to be a major problem of Canada, and I think people like Terry and Dean, they understand this situation better than most of the political leaders. See, you can keep on appeasing Jagmeet Singh and all these characters who have a Khalistani agenda. So it is earlier the better the Canadians actually realize that the spread of this Khalistani movement within Canada, if it is not contained right now, we are going to listen to more such videos as we just heard on your channel, and it's only a spark right now, and it does not take long from a spark spreading into a fire. That is my take on this subject.
Absolutely, and Vicky, when Mr. General Kochhar is absolutely right. When Pakistan, started to in fact use terrorism as a state policy, they did not realize that it's going to come back to bite them someday. And that's exactly what happened. When the Americans decided to support, the Afghans against the Soviets in the 80s and the 70s, they did not realize that they're going to come back, to in fact carry out one of the biggest, terrorist attacks ever in the world. Do you think Canada is also making the same mistake? And this is, of course, internally. There is no external country that they have to, in fact, fight for or fight against here.
Yep.
Yeah, that's right. I completely agree with what all the panelists said. The thing is, let me start by saying that, it's not Canada which has created the Frankenstein monster. It is Trudeau who's done it. Okay, let's be very clear on that. That's one thing. See, for a long time, I've been, trying to say that, this is a problem that is going to erupt in their backyard itself, because, the whole idea was to, begin this movement by starting off by saying that, it is going to gain a lot of traction in Punjab, which did not happen. The last straw was an Amritpal Singh, who, dressed and behaved like, Bidran Wale, but then he landed straight in jail and the moment died off. So the problem is, there is, the Justin Trudeau has been giving out a lot of, confusing signals. On one hand, he accuses India by saying, we are, behind the killings, and on the other hand, he says, not all Khalistanis represent the Sikhs. So, there's a kind of desperation which has set in his own backyard as well as in the backyard of these Khalistani elements. And definitely it is going to come and bite him on the back at the end of it. And that's exactly what we saw in this video. All these days, we were just seeing, they were targeting Indians and Hindus in particular by saying, go back to India. And now it's like Canadians saying that, go back to Europe. I don't know whether to say it's dangerous or it's kind of hilarious, or I don't know what to say on that. But in the near course of time, and also if you see this latest thing, Sandeep Singh Sidhu, the Sunny Toronto, just being given a clean chit. He's with the Canada border force. He's just been given a clean chit. You're not taking the request from New Delhi seriously. You're not, considering any of the extradition requests. You're not, considering the dossiers and the multiple investigations that are happening here. And just to cater to your, silly politics, to stay in power and, one or two people to keep them happy, I think he has ended up, putting his own country at risk. And I think India has done well on one front, and that is to keep Punjab completely away from this problem, despite so many attempts being made. It's a movement that is just not catching traction, and I don't see it catching any kind of traction. And so, since this is not working out here for them in India, the frustration is being thrown out in Canada. And let's all hope and pray that there's a regime change very soon in Canada.
Is going to change this, unsavory situation as well. And how much of all of this that you see right now, the friction between India and Canada, and of course all these problems that keep coming up, are actually personally Trudeau's fault?
Sorry, is that question for me? I didn't hear you.
Yes, that's for you, Terry.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Okay, well, what I'm saying is that how much of all of this that you see right now is Trudeau's fault? And do you think if there's going to be an election and there's going to be a change of guard, there's going to be a change of government, will things change?
There's really no question, according to the pollsters, that Trudeau's political career is toast pretty soon. He has to have an election before the fall of next year by law, and I don't see how he wins it on current showing. His time is up. Canadians traditionally get tired of their prime ministers within a decade. That was true. Mr. Harper's a conservative, Mr. Chrétien, a liberal, and Mr. Mulroney, a conservative before that. They all lasted about 9 years, and then Canadians said, okay, your time is up, out you go. Now, I do want to make a point, though, that not everything that goes wrong in Canada is Justin Trudeau's fault. And I want to remind your audience that it's not just the Liberals that we have a problem with, that have a Khalistan problem. I'll give you just one quick example. You recall, for example, that in 2018, Justin Trudeau did a disastrous tour of India in which he appeared at a glittering diplomatic reception and his entourage had invited to two such receptions in New Delhi and in Mumbai, and invited a convicted Khalistani terrorist named Jasper Atwal, who had been convicted back in the day of 1986, I believe, of the attempted murder of an Indian cabinet minister. Now, my point is that after that disastrous visit, which was a diplomatic fiasco, the Conservatives in Canada decided to try to cash in and score some political points by passing a motion in Parliament deploring the glorification of terrorism, which we see, for example, in martyr posters of the Air India bomber, praising him as a martyred hero of the Sikh nation, and this kind of nonsense. It's obscene, it's disgraceful, and it goes on, and is tolerated by all parties. So the Conservatives said, Trudeau looks bad in India, we're going to cash in, we're going to pass a motion saying we don't tolerate this. And guess what? The World Sikh Organization, a separatist organization, lobbied against that motion, and the Conservatives backed down. They withdrew the motion. They caved in. Meanwhile, of course, the Trudeau government more recently has been propped up by Jagmeet Singh, who's a Khalistani sympathizer. So I caution your viewers that it's not all about Trudeau. No, it isn't. All parties in Canada have been guilty for many years of indulging and pandering to the Khalistan element. They don't really understand the history. They don't really seem to want to understand what's really going on, what's behind what the history really is. And they are, I would not promise that when there is a new government in Canada, if I'm right about the polls, that it's going to be vastly different. Look out, you may not get what you're hoping for.
Dean, do you subscribe to this view that it's not right to look at what's happened right now in isolation and only contextualize it to what Justin Trudeau and his government has done in the last few years?
Absolutely. I think that, what we have, again, Terry has, rightly pointed this out. We've had successive governments going back, to the PET days, Pierre Elliott Trudeau, Justin's father, using and weaponizing CSIS and the RCMP to conduct investigations, etc. Having said that, what we have here is that we've played diaspora politics for many years. We don't understand the issues that surround them, and we are kowtowing to various individuals and groups because they represent votes, and it's sometimes money that is invested in those politicians, into their ridings. We see that a number of donations were given directly to Jagmeet Singh by people in the Khalistani separatist movement here in Canada. So yeah, this is a big problem, and we really do need to try to adjust the diaspora politics. People should come to this country. We will protect their values, protect their religion, but they're Canadian, and let's make that very, very clear. It's important to be Canadian, but preserve your culture, your heritage, but not at the expense of Canadians like this seems to be going right now.
And General Kocher, in fact, Vicky made a very important and a crucial point that, whatever is happening in Canada, the best part is, the silver lining is that it's not got any traction, any kind of a response within India or in Punjab as well. This is obviously something which the Khalistanis in Canada don't realize.
See, Vineet, according to my information, there are around 2 lakhs, 8 lakhs Sikhs in Canada, and they form 2% or so of the population of Canada. They are a diaspora which influences Canadian politics to a large extent. And that is why I tend to agree what Terry and Dean are saying, that even if the Conservatives come to power, things are not going to be drastically different as far as Canadian attitude towards India is concerned. We can only hope that with the influence of Trump and other leaders on Canada, some kind of improvement and sanity will prevail upon this political leadership. Because see, you talk to the Indians in Canada, most of them are silent spectators. They are not into these kind of agitations and going on strikes and dharnas and things like that. They are a silent majority. So I think a time has come within Canada to also make them realize that this is a minority. This Khalistan movement is a minority in Canada, and it is better for the good of the people of Canada and the people of Indians who are staying in Canada. You see, a moment you put restrictions on immigration and OCI status also gets affected, and you will find there will be resentment of the Indian people in Canada. Already the demand for students has gone down by 10% of the people who want to actually go to Canada. And talking about this Khalistan movement, let me inform the viewers as well as the panelists here who are from Canada, it is a dead movement as far as India is concerned. There is no Khalistan movement or any semblance also of a protest in the state of Punjab, because I belong to Punjab and I have my roots in Punjab, and I can speak to you from bare facts because I often go to Punjab. I've got my relatives there, I've got my friends there. There is nothing like Khalistan in India. There is nothing like Khalistan in Punjab, and these people are basically being financed by the ISI of Pakistan. And I would like to bring in the involvement of Pakistan here, because Pakistan will do anything to create a disturbance in any part of India. And they have tried with the drug mafia in the Punjab. To a large extent, we had a drug issue in Punjab, especially on the borders. And even today, we are shooting down the drones which are carrying, this latest was in Taran, which was carrying these arms and drugs into India. So there is a Pakistan angle, there is a Khalistan Tiger force involved, and 6 months back, there were intelligence reports that the leader of the Khalistan Tiger force was seen in Pakistan.
So we've completely run out of time. I apologize. Let me just quickly take a last 10-second comment from Vicky as well, and then we're going to wrap up. Vicky?
I think, let's just watch the politics that is playing out in Canada, as the panelists rightly suggested that, whether it's Trudeau or any other party, the problem will persist. But I think on the India perspective, I have to say, let's continue, building that pressure on whichever government is there, to have these people wanted by our agencies extradited as soon as possible and a possible probe. But more importantly, let's keep up the momentum in Punjab and make sure that this movement does not blow out of proportion. We have done well, and I'm sure we will continue.
All right, great points, and appreciate everyone who took out the time and spoke to us. Really enjoyed these perspectives.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.